purpose of this show is trying to help people who may have become addicted to opioid pain medication like I did. I did become the proverbial functioning addict, and they made me feel great until they didn't anymore. If we can help even one person with the information that's shared on this podcast, then it's all worth it. Hey everyone, Glenn Victor here. Peace. Welcome to the Dare Me Podcast, Season 2, Episode 7. Where does the time go? I can hardly believe we're already up to Episode 7 in Season 2 of the Dare Me Podcast, but here we are, and we are so excited for today's show. We have a very special guest. James Logan is standing by in the green room, as we say, and we'll be bringing him on shortly to talk about his miraculous story of endurance and survival. But before we do that, we got to bring in our co-host and producer, that rock star Dean Baker, standing by. What's happening, Dean?
Hey, Glenn. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, buddy.
This fine week.
Yes, sir. We've been busy, hey?
It's almost like I never leave.
Yeah, I know.
Probably because I never do.
We were on a little break for a couple of years, and man, it's almost like we never left the podcast. So we are back. And man, I'm just so grateful for you, Dean. Dean is standing by behind the scenes, handling all the things, the lighting,
and
the
just
mics,
so you
the
know,
cameras.
it is IMDb Supreme Podcast Genius,
Yes, sir.
just to
I
make
love
it official, you know.
I love it. I love
okay.
it. Dean's official title. Well, there you go. Well, thanks again for being along for the ride with us, Dean. So I got to just do this brief introduction. We're going to bring James on real soon. You know, I was telling Dean, we had a bite to eat earlier, that in my working life, when I was in business, I had a boss, Tom, may he rest in peace. He was a great leader. And this is probably going back 20 years. He had me read a book called The Tipping Point. And it is a business-oriented book, but certainly you can apply the things you learn in there into your personal life. But the long and the short of it is, he talks a little bit in that book about how when you start out, keeping in mind it's a business book and, you know, using this podcast as our example, the first year or so, you're doing all the work, man. You're out there recruiting, you know, contacts and relationships and business and different things. And then if you're a decent product, decent service, after about a year or so, you reach the tipping point where instead of going out and having to recruit people and opportunities and sales and business, quite frankly, and all, you have to start evaluating the offers that come to you from people that want to do business with you, so to speak, in a business perspective. Well, for the sake of this podcast, we did 50 shows in our first season. As I mentioned, we're 7 into season 2. Every guest that we've ever had on this show, we invited to be on the show. We asked them to be on the show because we felt their story would be an amazing story to tell on the show to help inspire people. And we've had some great guests. Well, our guest tonight is the first guest we've had whose publicist reached out to us and thought that this would be a great platform for him to tell his story. So, Dean, I kind of feel like we've reached the tipping point with our podcast here, because not only did we get an invitation to have our guest on tonight, but he's an amazing guest, a fantastic person. And with no further ado, we're going to bring him aboard right now. Welcome to the Dare Me Podcast. There he is, James Logan. Welcome, James. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you so much. Dean, I really appreciate being here. I appreciate your time.
Well, James, I want to jump right into your story. And of course, we have this graphic up there in between the two of us, and that's a photo of your book called Just Keep Trying. And we are so excited to hear more about your story. I read the book and my mind was blown at the stories of endurance and survival you have in there. So to introduce you, James, there's a whole description of the book on Amazon. I thought a great way to introduce you, and I'm not a big fan of reading to people on this podcast. I don't like reading, but I think just the short little introduction to this this book here would be a great way to introduce you, and then you tell us the rest of the story, because I'm excited to hear you tell it. So in the description, as you know, James, it says, for most of his life, Jim Logan believed success meant proving he was enough, tougher, stronger, more disciplined, more relentless than the world expected. He built a business, chased endurance, trained his body like a temple and a weapon, and then cancer showed up. Yeah. And that's where I thought we'd transition into our interview with you, James. If you would be so kind to pick up the story from there and tell us why you're on the Dare Me podcast today. We're so glad you're here.
Well, I had lived a pretty charmed 59 and a half years. I really had a very good life growing up in the 70s and 80s in New Jersey. Managed to go to high school in Europe from 78 to 82. Found my way to Atlanta in 93, where I met my wife, and happily married to her now for 30 years. Built a business for 30 years, raised a 21-year-old son, and life was good, really good. I was physically fit, mentally fit, spiritually fit, and I was really very comfortable in my life. And out of the blue, with no symptoms and no warning, I got diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic colorectal cancer, had advanced into my liver, literally hundreds of tumors in my liver. Having never been really sick before, I went from perfectly healthy to you have 6 months to 2 years to live. Wow. And it was it shattered the foundation of really my life and who I am and what I thought I had planned. To this day, the most difficult part of that diagnosis was coming home and telling my son and my wife being the most difficult conversation I've ever had in my life. I could take any amount of physical pain, but I just couldn't bring words to my mouth to tell my wife that the plans we had for the future would have to be condensed pretty seriously. So from that moment on, my life changed. It was before and after, basically. And it took me about 6 months to come to terms with the diagnosis and realize that, I was planning to die for the first 6 months because that's what the doctors told me. Once I realized nobody knows what the future holds and that all we get is today. And as long as I'm feeling good today, I'm going to make good use of that. I'm not going to worry about when or how I die. I'm going to worry about how I live between now and then. That's when I decided to write the book. That's when I decided to go to the IRONMAN World Championship, not knowing how I would do either.
Wow. Well, James, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I thought this would be a great opportunity for me to jump in and say that, as you know, I started this podcast because I struggled with a horrible opioid addiction when I broke my ankle. And I've been clean 5.5 years off of that shit. Thank God. It was a nightmare going through it. Thank you, James. I appreciate that. Well, where I was going with that is, in the open we do for the show, Dean put some sound clips up there of me kind of telling the short version of my story. And those are, that's a big part of the audience we kind of aim for, James, and that we target is people still addicted, struggling, looking for information like I was at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're jonesing and strung out, how to get off opiates, how to get off opiate withdrawal. Well, where I'm going with that is someone may be tuned in for that discussion on this podcast and wonder, what the hell are they talking about tonight? This has nothing to do with addiction. Well, you know what? It does, because, as we often say, to get through that shit, you gotta be a freaking warrior, man. And your story is one of a warrior, inspiration, endurance, survival. And so for me, man, that ties right into addiction. So I am so happy that you're here to tell our story. I just thought that was a good point to maybe interject that into the conversation. So what was the next step? Because I get it, man, a diagnosis like that and your whole life changes at the snap of a finger.
Yeah, the next step for me after I got the initial diagnosis first week of April, 2 weeks later I went to Texas to attempt an Ironman, diagnosed but untreated. I had already paid for everything and decided I would just go give it a try. And that's kind of where the title came from, Just Keep Trying. I didn't know why I was doing these Ironmans with cancer and chemo, and they were going miserably, but I did it anyway. And through the process, that's how I found my way to the World Championship. That's how I found my way to writing the book. And I would say that you don't have to be an Ironman. The correlation between Ironman and addiction would be just keep trying is universal message. Regardless of what you're going through, you know, when you're in a deep, dark place, you can't see the finish line, just like an Ironman. When you start, it's 140 miles away. You can't see it. It's unreasonable to think you're going to get there. So you don't have that hope. I wrote the book to give faith to the faithless and hope to the hopeless and prove that anything's possible if you just keep trying. And that would be true for an addict who's in a deep, dark place. Focus on today. Don't worry about tomorrow. If you do what you're supposed to do today, tomorrow will take care of itself. And just keep stacking one good day on another, and you'll be surprised where you end up. You'll be surprised what you're capable of. There's brighter days ahead, and that's why I wrote Just Keep Trying.
Wow. Well, what a inspirational message, man. That is just like freaking amazing. I keep saying the word, but it keeps coming to my mind, endurance and being a survivor. And I think most importantly, man, is a positive attitude. I think that makes a huge difference when you're battling challenges like you are.
Absolutely. I would say one of the mindset shifts that I've had, and I know people see me now 28 months into this diagnosis. I wasn't this way initially. I've grown, and I'm still growing. The more I learn, the less I know, seems. But I've achieved this over time. And one of the mindset shifts that I had recently was, for a long time, I asked, why is this happening to me? And someone who's suffering from addiction might ask the same question. Why are all these bad things happening to me? Shift that to, why are these things happening for me? So if you come through an addiction like you have, you're stronger than the average individual who's never had to face that kind of a trial. You come out stronger mentally, physically, spiritually. And then the greatest thing you can do after suffering trauma as you have and we have is to turn around and share it with others so that maybe you can help them through a similar way. You can guide the way. You see the finish line, they don't. You can be the bridge between the two. There's no greater joy than helping someone through something like that. I get the tingly bumps just talking about it because I know how many people you're reaching. I'm hoping our conversation will reach people in a similar way. Fitness is a great way to fight addiction. It's a great way to fill that void.
Sure.
You know, so as I say, pain and suffering is the price of admission to the gateway of enlightenment. You have to go through the pain and suffering to get all the answers. But once you do, and Goggins is a great example, you have to go through the pain.
Well, I am so glad you brought him up. We were talking, folks, a little bit before we started the show today that we're both fans of that rock star David Goggins, man, because that's it. He has that don't quit attitude towards it. And as you and I both know, you know, he's what's the word I'm looking for? He has, you know, written in some of his books about how he failed at these different, you know, Ironman triathlons, whatever the hell it was, but it taught him, and he kept coming back and kept coming back. And I love that, man. It just ties right into your book. Just keep trying.
A couple words I don't like. I don't like the word terminal. I don't like the word failure. So terminal, when they told me I was terminal, I believed them. And terminal is defined as the end. Here I am 28 months into my diagnosis. I was only supposed to live 6 months to 2 years. I'm 4 months into overtime. And I was anything but terminal. Terminal is the end. That was the beginning of my new life. And there's so many good things that I'm doing now, so many opportunities that, you know, to write a book, to go to the Ironman, to inspire people, to motivate people. I'm so happy with what I'm doing now that I wouldn't trade my diagnosis. And I've said in the past, cancer is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. It's also the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Wow, James, what a powerful statement. And again, not to compare apples to oranges, I feel the same way. And I know many others have said this that have survived addiction and said, I never thought in a million years I would get to a place where I can say I'm grateful that that's what happened to me. And I survived it because it made me into the person I am today.
And you know, trade it.
You said, as part of what you were talking about, this new life. And that's one of the, you know, it's kind of one of the slogans around, you know, the 12-step rooms, NAAA, whatever the hell, where change everything. Change everything. And I remember for myself, James, when I finally got clean again, right just before I did, I remember telling my sister, I just want my life back.
Yeah.
But then after I started to accumulate some clean time and some recovery in my life, getting a little peace, I thought to myself, wait a minute. I don't want nothing to do with that old life. What the hell was going on in my head to make me think it was a good idea to be taking all them damn drugs? Yeah. And so I did. I mean, my life is nothing like it was when I started this journey. I have changed just about everything. So I appreciate you saying that. You know, life is about change, isn't it?
Yeah, and accepting the fact that you can't go back. You can't hit rewind. You can't hit fast forward. You can learn from the past and apply your lessons to the future, but you can't go back. And for me, there's no going back. And like I said, I'm grateful to cancer for the many gifts that it's given me. And I always tell people the first gift cancer gave me is time. I've had 28 months to talk to my wife, talk to my son, talk to my parents and my brothers and sisters and my friends, and explain to them how much I care about them. All my relationships are so tight right now. I've had an opportunity to do things I never thought I would do, like write a book and do public speaking and podcasts, meet people like yourself. And the greatest joy for me now, and I've dedicated my life to a life of service and charity and motivation and inspiration. So I said, I don't know how much longer I have to live, but I know how I'm going to spend the time between now and then. And that's what gives me great joy. That's what gives me the hope and optimism that I have. I don't worry about tomorrow. I'm not concerned with it even a little bit. I'm worried about making today a great day.
Wow, what a powerful thing to say, James. You know, I'm a big fan of that book you may be familiar with. It was written, there are quotes from Swami Satchidananda. He's a big yoga guy. Yeah. And there's a book, it's called The Golden Present. Okay. And it's all about living in the moment, which I'm certainly no expert at doing that. I don't think anybody is perfect at it. But you're exactly right, brother. It don't get no better than this moment right here, right now that we're having. The past is the past. That's, a canceled check, and tomorrow's a promissory note, as we say. So I really do appreciate what you said. It's all about staying in the moment, for God's sake. We could walk out of here right now, pull out on the road, and it's all over,
I like staying in the moment. And I also like something that's helped me is perspective. One day I was feeling sorry for myself in early January when 3 new tumors showed up after being no evidence of disease. I had really high hopes that I would be done with this. And big tumors came back on chemo, nightmare scenario. And I was feeling sorry for myself. And it's not a feeling I like to have. I was watching Instagram and I saw a 4-year-old boy trying to navigate a 3-inch curb, a concrete curb with a walker. And this is his life. And he's only 4 years old. He struggled to get over the curb. He was in tears when it was done. But he had made that achievement. And this is just one part of his little day. I had 62 good years before I had to deal with some real serious hardships. So what I always put things in perspective is, no matter how bad it is for you, someone's got it worse. If you want to make yourself feel better, you don't know what to do, volunteer. Go help other people that are in worse shape than you are.
Yeah, buddy. Wow. That's a great point to make, James. I've done some volunteer work in my life, not as much as I'd like to do, and maybe at some point we'll carve out the time to do, because you got to make the time to do it. But you're exactly right. I get more back than I could possibly help anybody else with, out of the good feeling of doing something further. Well, even with this podcast,
I would say what you're doing, this is the equivalent of volunteering. You're volunteering your time and your knowledge, and your history to make other people's lives better. That's a noble cause, and I'm sure that's and your passion for it shows, and that's you can feel it for sure. So be proud of what you're doing. Sure.
Thank you for saying that, James. I appreciate it. But again, this show, I might be kind of leading the pack or whatever, but I feel like it's our show, and today's show is all about you. So I want to ask the question, because I'm sure our viewers and listeners are probably curious about this now, based on everything we've talked about up to this point. What is your current status health-wise? Because you said you just had tumors in January, so where are you at right now?
Well, I started the year no evidence of disease, and the first week of January, I had a prolapsed ostomy, which means my intestines fell out of my stomach. They shoved those back in, which is, you pour table sugar on them and you shove them back in. It's not that big a deal, turns out. But while I was in there, they discovered 3 new tumors, which put me on a 3-month chemo program, which was pretty heavy chemo, which led to infections and blood clots in my neck and my aorta, which landed me in the hospital for 7 days. And then while I was in the hospital, they came in, I was really in despair thinking, this is it, maybe I'm dying. And they came in and said, no, you're no evidence of disease. The blood clots are going to go away. We're going to do a surgery to fix the ileostomy, which we did June 9th. And I've been right now, no evidence of disease. And I'm on mild chemo just to kind of keep it at bay. But I'm as good now as I've ever been.
Well, James, I appreciate you. Yeah, miraculously. And I appreciate you sharing that, because I wanted you to kind of tell that little part of the story, because what blows my mind is, in spite of all that shit going on in your life that you just described to us, you are on a mission right now to run this IRONMAN contest in Hawaii in October. So let's talk about that a little bit. Dean, I think we have a slide for that too, if you want to bring that up. Just talking about it a little bit. So, well, that slide there, that was from the introduction that we did. Yeah, I'm
going to cycle. You tell me when to stop.
Yeah, and James, we can edit this. So, okay, there's the slide. So, James, here's something I pulled from your social media where you're talking about, this fundraiser for the IRONMAN Foundation, which I did some research online. Of course, I had heard of it. But tell us about this event. Going through the health challenges you are right now, but still training for this event is just awe-inspiring. So tell us more about this.
The Ironman in Kona is the World Championship. It's the birthplace of Ironman. It's where the event was invented. 2.4 mile ocean swim, 112 mile bike, 26.2 mile run. It's considered the Mecca for the Ironman races. Very difficult to get into. 2,500 competitors, half women, half men, and 10% pros. Means there's a little over 1,000 men in the entire world trying to get in. I had entered into Ironman Florida, and at that time decided to join the foundation and give back to this community that's given so much to me. Throughout my years, I had done racing, but never volunteered or gave back. So I thought this was a perfect thing to do. I raised $10,000 for Florida. Through the process, got to meet Audra, the executive director of the Ironman Foundation, who it turns out I know from high school. So we go back all the way to 1982. And she was expressing sympathy for my situation, appreciation for me raising funds for Florida, and then asked me if there's anything she could do. I said, yeah, get me into Kona 26. Done. And, that was a year ago. So it's been one miracle after another. Writing the book is not something I had on my radar. I'm not an author, but it's something I've done. Getting to Kona was not something that I thought would ever be possible, but yet here it is. And the foundation's been around for decades. 501c3 nonprofit, fund tax deductible. They've raised over $60 million and distributed it all over the world, mostly teaching kids to swim and ride bikes. So,
I was going to say, and I didn't mean to interrupt you there, James, but I think that's so important to emphasize and talk about, that they help young people coming up in this arena of, the Ironman and triathlon. So, man, the fundraising goes to a great cause.
Yeah, the overriding theme is really not so much you're teaching them to swim, you're teaching them to bike, but what you're really teaching them is the Ironman motto, that anything is possible. For a lot of these kids, swimming is a scary thing. They don't know how to do it. They're afraid to death. And once you teach them how to overcome an obstacle that seems insurmountable, when they face another obstacle in their life that seems equally insurmountable, they'll be able to overcome that because they know if they apply themselves, ask for help, and work hard, that anything is possible. And that's the gift that keeps giving. Really proud to be part of the team and honored to be raising money. I'm actually up to about $30,000. So
okay, so this is an older post from June 19th. So, and just for the record, everyone, we're not here asking for money or begging for money, but if you did want to donate, this is not money that goes to Jim or Glenn, it goes right to the IRONMAN Foundation, 501c3, no funny business, legit nonprofit that does good work in the community. And I think it's awesome, Jim, that here you're going through these challenges, but yet you're always thinking about others and wanting to raise money for the foundation. That's just fantastic.
The profit from the book also goes to the foundation until the fundraising goal is met. So I'm using the book as a fundraising tool as well, and I get no financial benefit, beyond up to the $100,000, which, I need to sell about 10,000 books. I think I'm 1,000 in. So, but I'm gaining exposure. So.
We will do a little pitch again there, though. Yeah. So just as we'll show it again before, and we'll put a link in the description for the show, by the way, to the book on Amazon. And it's not expensive. It's like $14.95. You know what I mean?
Easy to read, short and sweet, full of golden nuggets. And at first you think it's a book about triathlon, and it is. And maybe you think it's a book about cancer, and it is. But it's really about faith and hope and family and what's possible. Anything is possible. People are more capable than they think, and that's true if you're an Ironman, an addict, a recovering addict. It's true for everybody. So there's universal messages in there that really apply to young and old, male and female. It really covers the spectrum.
Well, you know what? I got to interject a couple of things I wanted to say right there, Jim. You and I talked earlier about being fitness enthusiasts and all that other stuff. And yeah, it's great to be in shape and fit and tone. We're both older guys in our early 60s and all that. But at the end of the day, and you said it, man, it's the mental thing, like I told you, I can be having a crummy day and I just walk through the front door of that gym and my stress level goes down immediately. And then after a great workout, I feel great. Yeah. Dopamine gets flowing, endorphins, adrenaline. There's just nothing like it. I'm so glad I started doing this for myself. So anyway, the second thing I can't resist, okay? Dean was razzing me a little bit about showing family photos and shit, but I just can't resist because, James, my son, Glenn Jr., G, as we call him, he lives in Hawaii, where you're going to be going to run this Ironman contest. Now, he's on Oahu. You're going to the Big Island in October. But here's the thing. My son runs these things too. And I think Dean might have a couple photos ready that we could show. So that's my son's name. That's my real last name. Victor is my middle name, but it's what I use on the air. And so these are just a couple posts that Dean pulled from his Facebook. We kind of did this at the 11th hour, but I couldn't resist the opportunity to brag about my son a little bit. Sure. And so anyway, I think we got a couple more pictures Dean was going to show. That's one. There he is on the bike.
He's definitely a fit dude.
Oh, yeah. He's in great shape, man. He's in the gym every day,
I think I have that same helmet.
Yeah. Oh, right on. And then I think we got a couple more, don't we, Dean? Yep. Oh, there's his... Yeah, his man. Yeah, buddy. And you know what? He told me every time he's done, because I think he's done like a half dozen of them now. He's gone to Maui, different place. They do the big thing. And, he's gotten to a point where he said, Dad, I'm not out there trying to win this damn thing. Yeah, I have a goal of a time I might like to beat, but at the end of the day, I don't care if I'm the last one walking over that finish line. There is nothing like that feeling of crossing that finish line. And speaking of, there he is.
Yeah, everybody feels
Dean,
like a
that
winner.
was perfect timing, Dean, by the way. Right?
It's called paying attention, and I do that once in a while.
You are a great producer.
Even though it's getting late,
the ultimate professional right there. No, it's not. Nothing feels like that finish line, and everyone feels like a winner. And that's one of the great things about Ironman is everyone feels like a winner when they cross that line because it's your own personal race. There's something personal going on there. For the longest time, people would ask me why I do Ironman, and I never really had a good answer. But going through cancer, I realized now the reason I do it is because I love it.
Yeah.
People do things that they love, and why would I go back to it after getting cancer? Because I love it. I told my wife as I was sitting on the couch waiting for cancer to kill me, I said, I can't do this. I can't sit here and wait. I said, I don't know, cancer might kill me and chemo might kill me, but I'm pretty sure swimming, biking, and running are not going to kill me. So I'm going to go back to doing the things I love to do. I put cancer on a shelf, and I told my wife, cancer has my body. I'll do what's medically necessary to deal with that. But cancer cannot have my heart because I've given that to my wife and my son. Can't have my mind because it belongs to me, and it can't have my soul because I've given that to God. So mind, body, and soul against cancer has been a winning formula for me so far. Faith and fitness are the bookends that hold the rest of my life up.
Well, let's talk about that, the formula. And I love what you just said. Dean, I think we have a slide that I put together from the book. So, James, in the book, Just Keep Trying, you have a formula that you call the DSSP system. Here it talks a little bit about it in the book description, and it says, this book weaves hard-won lessons into what James calls the DSSP formula: discipline, sacrifice, suffering, and pain. So if you would, elaborate on that with us a little bit more, how you came up with this philosophy and what each of those topics means to you.
Well, throughout the decades of my life, I've always been self-employed. I was in construction as a carpenter, moved into home inspection, did that for 30 years, did almost 15,000 home inspections. I didn't realize I was developing this philosophy at the time, but when I began to write the book and look back at my life, I defined it then. I looked back and then I gave it the definition, I gave it the title, and I realized that these were the core principles, the 4 pillars that I applied to everything in my life, which led to the success that I had. Discipline, sacrifice, suffering, and pain. And it doesn't matter where you're at in life or what you apply this to, it'll work. If you have discipline, if you don't have discipline, forget it. You can throw the other 3 away. It's not going to work. So it starts with discipline, daily discipline. If you're willing to make sacrifices and you don't mind enduring some suffering and pain, you can accomplish anything you set your mind to in a way that you'll surprise yourself. Yeah. So, but suffering and pain are necessary. As I said, that's the admission to the gateway of enlightenment. You have to go through it, all the way through it. Most people, as humans, we avoid suffering and pain. I was laughing with someone the other day. I was like, I've never used Uber Eats. I can't pay someone $10 for a $5 cheeseburger. It just doesn't work for me. I said, what's next with these apps? Are you going to have someone carry it from your doorstep to your couch? That'll be the next app. They'll have somebody carry the Uber Eats from the doorstep to the couch so you don't have to move at all.
Right.
But suffering and pain are necessary. And whether, I like to say, and it's not my saying, but you can suffer the pain of discipline or suffer the pain of regret. We're all going to go through it one way or another. So trust me, you'd rather suffer the pain of discipline than look back on your life and wish you'd done this or that or the other thing. So
here's one that comes to mind, James, an old saying I was taught: pain in life is mandatory. It's coming. Suffering is optional, because it's all about perspective and things that we go through. So I kind of like that saying, you know, it's like, instead of sitting there on the couch, like you said, moping, you told your wife, hey, I can't do this. I got to get out and do things. And so for you, you're going through pain, but you're just being such a positive influence for everyone. It's
what I explain to people too is, and it's hard to understand for some folks, but you have to understand, I was an Ironman before I got cancer. I was an optimist before I got cancer. So all I did was accelerate what I kind of already was. And for me, with chemo and all the things that are happening, when I get on my bike or when I do something I love, the pain goes away. You're distracted from the negativity and you're focused to be in the moment. If I'm out on a bike ride, I don't have time to think about cancer. I've got to worry about the next 10, 12 feet in front of me so I don't crash my bike.
Well, you know what? In the book, folks, it goes into more detail about everything we just talked about, but I love, it's real simple, but so powerful, the DSSP formula: discipline, sacrifice, suffering, and pain. And then you also talk in the book about a lot of great and powerful things, but these 2 kind of struck out for me, and I thought it'd be cool to talk about what you describe as the 5 practical lessons. What do you have to say about all that, James? The first one is, you don't have to feel strong to keep moving. I like that.
Yeah, everyone's got to start somewhere, it doesn't have to be. For a lot of people have come to me and said, you're an Ironman. I don't want to do that. You don't have to. You can just go for a walk. Walking is maybe one of the healthiest things for you. I call it moving meditation, basically. So you know what? I have a friend of mine, Brian. Shut up, Brian, if you see this, bro. And he's a guy in the recovery community. And you know what? He started what he called a walking meeting. So everybody meets at a particular place and gathers in the parking lot. Might be a dozen people or whatever. And everybody shares and they talk just like it's a regular meeting where people were sitting in a circle in a rec room or something. But
they're walking while they
Yeah.
do it. And how cool is that? So, yeah, I'm glad you said that. Well, the next one on the 5 practical lessons list is control your attitude when you can't control the outcome. Man, is that powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I had the illusion of control for the first 59 and a half years. I had the illusion that I could make something happen just by pure will. And when I got hit with cancer, I really faced my first challenge that I couldn't get around on my own. And I really had to surrender to God and surrender to my family and humble myself as the fearless leader of the family and realize that I'm not as strong as I used to be and that I need help from others, that I can't do this by myself. But control the things you can control, which is your attitude. And, like I said, fill your life with positivity, and there's no room for the darkness. So that's kind of where I went with that. But control what you can. For me, fitness is something that I think is in everyone's control. You can't control the economy. Maybe you can't control your finances and your health or other things, but you can get up and go for a walk. That's free. You can do that. That's on you.
And you can also, while you're on that walk, adjust your attitude, right? Well, number 3, I'm sorry, go ahead, James. Go
I was
ahead.
going to say, for a lot of people, it's hard to get started because they're like, I don't want to walk for an hour. I don't want to. We'll do it for 10 minutes. And I'll tell you what will happen. In the 10 minutes, you'll decide to go a little further.
Yep.
But if you make it small enough that it's easy to say, okay, I can do 10 minutes. Once you get into the 10 minutes, you'll keep going.
You'll keep going. Yep. And then you look forward to doing it the next time.
And I tell you this, and you know this for a fact, maybe there's some days you don't necessarily feel like going to the gym, but you've never walked out of a workout, good or bad, and said, I wish I didn't do that.
Ever. You're exactly right. So I get how those two tie together. Well, number 3 on the list, small, consistent actions beat waiting for perfect conditions. And oh boy, do I want to comment on that one. But tell us a little bit more how you came up with that line, James.
Just from my life's experience, that small things can lead to big results over a long period of time. It's a lot like that, and there's so many parallels in the Ironman. But people ask me, does that aerodynamic helmet make a big difference? It does. Every little things matter. Little things matter. It's not always about the big things. Matter of fact, no one does anything big. A big thing is just a series of small things. So focus on the details. Don't think that a small thing doesn't matter. Little things applied over a long period of time can have a tremendous result.
Wow, James, that's such a powerful statement. It reminds me of something a friend of mine told me. I mean, it's an old saying, but I heard it from him for the very first time. A friend of mine, Marlin, anonymous, shout out Mass if you see this. And I went to this conference and he talked about how perfectionism is a form of procrastination. And that's what I thought about when I read this third item on your 5 practical lessons. It's just like with this podcast, James, we had been on a break for a couple of years for a variety of reasons and circumstances, but them last couple of months leading into when we kicked it off, like we said, we're into episode 7 now of season 2. I really was. I fell victim to that procrastination, as a form of perfectionism because I was just trying to make everything perfect and right and crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. And finally, I just got so frustrated with myself where I just said, you know what, we're just doing the first show and then that'll
just
get going. And now we're on a roll. So I love that you have that in there. Well, number 4, lean, and I'm very curious to hear your input on this. Lean on faith and community during hard seasons.
When you have faith, you don't worry about tomorrow. I'm a Christian, and I've always been a faithful man, but not a man full of faith. I talk about it in the book. My commitment to faith was kind of a part-time faith where I used it when I needed it, when it was in my benefit. When I had my moment of surrender in October of 24, it was shortly after that a scan came back and showed all the tumors had disappeared, which was miraculous. And, I really attribute that to God opening the door for me, saying, you're not done with you yet. And so I lean into the faith, and I think of Luke 6:34 as a proverb or a saying that I like, which is, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. There's enough troubles in the day ahead. And if you just focus on that, your tomorrows will be okay. And I leave the rest to God. I don't know when I'm going to die. I don't care. Where I'm going next is better than here. I'm going to leave some people behind that will be unhappy for a little while, but where I'm going is better than here. And the trick is to use the rest of my days the best that I can to share my experience and help as many people as I can. And that's the great joy in my life now. And I'm thankful to cancer for the opportunity. I wouldn't be doing this without cancer. So as much as cancer sucks, it's also it's turned me into a man that I don't want to. I'm happier in the last 2.5 years doing what I'm doing now than I am with the first 59 and a half.
Wow. Well, you talked about leaving a legacy. And you know what, James? That's one of the things I even think about with this podcast. I'm not no spring chicken. I got 3 grandchildren and a couple of kids of my own. And, my grandkids are just little ones. They're not even really talking yet. And I think to myself, oh, my God, when they're my age, I'll be long gone and forgotten. But, hey, what we're doing here on this podcast, man, like they say, you put something out on the internet, it's there forever. And so I like to think about that maybe one day, hey, what was Grandpa like? Or what did, whatever. And, we're sharing a positive message here together, James, that will hopefully live on and help others long after we're gone. And that's sure to hell makes me feel good. And that's Absolutely. A great legacy. So with all that said, I am so grateful to you for coming on our show, telling your story, inspiring me as well as others, as we just mentioned. And I just can't tell you how grateful I am. I encourage everyone to go out, pick up James' book, and it's an easy read, man. It's one of them books that once you start reading it, it just flows, and you don't want to put it down. You want to keep going. Yeah. So it's on Amazon. Go check it out, yo. Yeah,
a lot of 5-star reviews. #1 bestseller in cancer and triathlon and in spiritual growth. It's also being considered for a Pulitzer Prize in 2027 in the genre of memoirs.
So when we do our promos for this show, James, I can include in there best-selling author James Logan. How about that? And that's a great accomplishment. Yeah, buddy.
Again, thankful to cancer for the book. Thankful to cancer for the Ironman. Thankful to cancer for the time and the opportunity to make the changes in my life that I felt were necessary. And what I would say to anybody out there listening, you don't have to wait for cancer. Ask yourself the question that was presented to me. You have 2 years to live. Would it change how you spend the next 2 years? It did for me, and it might for you. If it would, make those changes.
Well, there you go. And #5 on that list, your greatest challenge may become your greatest testimony. And you've certainly demonstrated with us today, James, how you have taken what is a horrible thing and turned it into a positive. And how about that, man? Life shows up, and like they say, when you get lemons, make lemonade. And you did, man. And I'm so grateful and honored, and I mean that sincerely and quite frankly. That term gets thrown around a lot, but I am so honored to have you on our show, James. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much, Glenn. I really appreciate the kind words, and I feel equally the same about you. You've been through some similar things and equal challenges, and then you're doing the same thing. You're turning around, sharing, and helping others. It's a beautiful thing to see, and I'm so honored, as you say, to be a part of it. And what a great pleasure to meet you and to meet Dean as well. So thank you guys so much.
Oh, James, we're grateful to have you. Now, we're going to ask you, if you want, to stick around for just a little bit longer. And, of course, like I said, y'all, we'll put links in the description for the show, for the book on Amazon. You can go follow James' journey on socials. We'll put a link for his Facebook, for Instagram. He's very active on social, and I just love it, man. But every show, James, we like taking just a short little time to do opioid crisis in the news stories. Just a couple. It doesn't go on for too long, but we've kind of made like a tradition of this, if you will, with this show. We really do keep our eyes on what's going on out there across the country and in other parts of the world, and we like to just pick maybe 2 or 3 stories to touch on this week, and we got a couple, and I just thought it'd be interesting getting your input on these stories. So with all that said, we appreciate you sticking around for this part of the show. Dean, let's bring up that first story that we wanted to talk about. So, as know, James, this show focuses on the opioid crisis, but some of the fallout from that, if you will, is that now some of the drug dealers are mixing other chemicals like fentanyl and other things into pills or drugs that people might buy off the street and think they're getting the real thing that's legit. Well, this is a Spectrum News story out of Charlotte, Carolina, where officials say animal tranquilizers are now playing a huge role in recent overdose spikes in this particular county, Rowan County there. And, we've talked on the show many times this season about how the opioid fatality rate has been coming down over the past couple of years, which is fucking great. I mean, of course, it hasn't gone away. Or this drug problem with the other things that are out there. And Dean, did they have another piece on this, or was this the only one we had for this story? I think there might. Yeah, here's one more. It says it's called xylazine or trank, and God, I couldn't even pronounce that. I'd hatch it at metatomidine.
Hey, you did it.
Yeah, there you go. Nonetheless, though, they're animal tranquilizers, and when they're mixed with other drugs, experts say they increase the risk of a deadly overdose. And again, I'm not going to go read through the whole thing, but here's one thing that I thought was real important. And Dean, you'll take special interest in this because Dean's a big proponent, James, of Narcan, which of course is, the chemical that can reverse the effects of opioids. Yeah,
that's probably why those deaths came down.
Yeah, exactly. I'm guarantee it's a huge part of it. But if you look at the last paragraph on here, it says, because Narcan does not work on xylazine and the other chemicals, officials say more people are dying from overdoses in, that Rowan County area because dealers are mixing this shit in there. Doesn't it blow your mind, man? So I couldn't help but ask the question, because I think a lot of people think about this kind of stuff when it comes to endurance training and all that kind of stuff, Does the drug world find its way into that atmosphere?
Many Ironmen are recovering addicts. Yeah. And I always joke about it. And I was borderline on a few things, mostly weed and beer. That I probably did too much of, but I grew up in the 70s. You and everybody else, I grew up in the 70s. That's what we did,
Some people just don't admit it.
I remember back in the 70s, they were saying that predicts in the future that people would be addicted to prescription drugs, and I couldn't understand that. It breaks my heart to hear that, but a lot of people find solace. If you have an addictive personality, what you want to do is get addicted to something that's good for you. And the thing about Ironman, it takes up a lot of your time. And what is time? Time is the devil's workshop if you don't fill that space. And you want to fill up some space, train for an Ironman. You won't have time or money for anything else.
Yeah, buddy.
So a lot of people, and I used to say that is for me, a lot of people thought it was about the finish line. For a lot of people, they're running away from the start line. I feel like when I'm moving, I'm escaping my demons. I'm escaping cancer. I don't feel like they can keep up with me. So there's something about that movement that I feel like.
I got to interrupt, James. You just stole one of my lines because, I'm going to be 65 in February, and I got a lot of younger friends and go to the gym regularly. And I tell some of these kids, too, like, boy, you can't even keep up with me. I'm a grown-ass 60-some-year-old guy. You in your 20s or 30s, and you can't even keep up with me at the gym? What the hell? So I get what you're saying. But anyways, bro, I appreciate your input on that story. Now, another one we like to track, James, is the tens and tens of millions of dollars that have been paid out by big pharma and others as a result of their involvement in, spreading this opioid crisis. And so Dean and I have kind of been, even just a little bit, many of a watchdog, keeping an eye on some of this stuff. But here's the thing, and we've talked about some of the things they've used this money for. Of course, a lot of it goes to great stuff. In fact, here in Florida, we talked a couple of shows ago about how Manatee County over in the Tampa area, experienced the highest reduction Is that an oxymoron? In opioid fatalities, in the last year, and as a result of that, they're being gifted like $500,000 to use with the programs they've been implementing that are working.
It makes sense. Expand on what works, right?
Yeah, and so the point I'm making is there's good programs out there, so I want to start with that. But this article here, okay, and this is from a psychology publication. I follow so many different ones, and it's called Mindset News. Little accountability for the billions. I kept saying tens and millions, but it's literally billions of dollars. Crazy money. And so this first part here just says, in this particular area they're talking about, companies accused of recklessly marketing and distributing the prescription opioids are paying in this area over $58 billion to settle lawsuits over their role in fueling the addiction crisis. And you can see this story is dated July 27th. What is that, 4 days ago? So, Dean, let's go to the next slide because it talks about how this watchdog group says some of these companies are recklessly marketing and distributing, what they're calling recovery programs, if you will. And, we've had guests on the show before, James, where they say, man, that money should be going to the families of the victims and stuff. But you got all this other stuff going on now. Dean, if we can go to the next one, it talks a little bit in here about at the bottom there, because again, I don't want to just read everybody, but it's saying local leaders have little to no training in addiction policy and may lack what they call robust local health departments and policy guardrails to assist them. So here you got these politicians, these big business people, whatever, getting access to all this money, but they have no experience in how to allocate something like that. So you got great programs like what we talked in Manatee County, but this guy who wrote this, he was pissed. At the bottom, he says, things are tens of thousands of dollars to projects far far away from what the opioid, settlement money was supposed to be. Things like surveillance cameras, technology to help people access locked phones, goggles that simulate drunk driving. I know what those are. People use them at expos and safety fairs to get people to come to their booth. They put them on and it, gives them blurry vision, which is great to kind of give people an opportunity to start a conversation about the dangers of drinking and driving. But at the end of the day, let's go to the next slide, Dean. This watchdog group here, if you look at the top line, he says, it feels like the Spider-Man meme, like it's everybody pointing at each other. Somebody needs to be able to have the stick and slam their hand on the table and be like, you're doing this wrong, and this is the consequence. And if you look later in this article, he says it's a slap in the face to the families of the victims. So anyway, I kind of went on and on about this one a little bit, James, but what's your take on this? How do you think this money should be diced and sliced? When you got that much money, the crooks come out of the woodwork.
It's bothersome because a lot of the money gets sucked up into administrative costs and it doesn't do the good work that it could do. I think they'd be better off, instead of putting money through the government, you put $1 through the government, you might get 5 cents out the other side. With all the regulations and nonsense. And like you said, they don't know what they're doing. Lawyers take probably 30, 40% right off the top, both sides. And then what I would rather see is the money get distributed to charities like in Tampa that have already proven track record of success. Let's take those programs that work and grant them the funds, keep the government out of it. And that way 100% of the money would go to the people that need it the most and the programs that work the best. If the program's not working, they don't get any more funds. But the government seems like the worst way to distribute anything.
I agree. And if you look at, again, I don't mean to keep reading, but at the last sentence of this particular slide, it says many states, including New York, where this was written, designate some of the funds as unrestricted, allowing for general spending. Yeah, they're like putting this money in their general budget to fund whatever the fuck, salaries, all this kind of shit. Like, what? Wait a minute.
Misappropriation, greed, it
Yep.
makes you it hurts my heart, to be honest with you,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you see the ground level of the people that are suffering, where the money could be really used to make a difference. And you see in some cases like Tampa, where they are doing programs that make a difference, and all they need is more funding. So it's a shame, but it's the same thing over and over again. You see it time and time again with the wasteful spending, and then everybody up patting themselves on the back about what a great thing they did, and then
Yeah.
nothing gets executed. So I'm not impressed with the lawyers, the politicians, the government, the people that distribute. And I wonder about cronyism too. Why do you think they're doing the surveillance cameras? Is that somebody's brother that has a surveillance camera company?
Yeah.
So
Well,
they would
here,
benefit that way. There's
yeah, these no bid contracts. There
Yeah.
was one Dean and I talked about on a previous show where one particular police department wanted to pay, what was it, Dean? They wanted to pay for 2 more police cruisers because they said their resources had been strained so much battling this opioid epidemic that they had to reallocate funds for the vehicles to help deal with the drug thing, and now they wanted new cars. Is that what it was?
It was for more equipment. That's
Yeah.
where that I think that went along with the better surveillance.
Yeah, equipment.
And
Yeah.
surveillance equipment, and the automobiles, and I'm
Yep.
like, well,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
government-
So now here we are buying new cars. Hey, we're pro law enforcement, by the way, man.
Yeah.
And, there's good cops and bad cops like
Yeah.
in any business, But at the end of the day, people look at this and say, whoa, wait a minute, man. I lost my son, my daughter, my mother, my father, and here you're using this money to go buy new cars? Wait a minute, something ain't right there. We're talking with James Logan, author of the best-selling book, Just Keep Trying. And James, once again, we can't thank you enough for being on the show today. So inspirational. We're going to put a link in the description for the shows to the Amazon bookstore where you can pick this up. Of course, we'll have links to James' social media, his Facebook, his Instagram, and the link if you'd like to go follow his journey. So inspirational. Just so happy to have you on the show today, James. And I thought we'd bring this full circle and kind of close it out with a couple of memes. We follow all these memes on social media, and a couple of them that I saw kind of struck out to me that I thought would be, good to show and to maybe bring the show full circle. And this certainly applies to both you and I. Not all storms come to disrupt your life. Some come to clear your path. How do you feel about that one?
It's similar to my philosophy, that my recent mindset change, that things don't happen to you, they happen for you. You have to figure out why, and then grab the silver lining out of the darkness. And if you can learn to do that, you'll continue to learn and grow. And if you're smart, you'll share with other people. So need to find the meaning in it, So
Yeah.
and it's meaning in all things. So that's the challenge right there, is
There
to
you
go
go.
through it. Just like Goggin says, you got to go through the storm. You don't fear it. Don't run from it. Go right into the center of it and figure it out.
And start your new path. All right. Well, Dean, we had one more slide and then we'll bring the show to a close. And I just loved this slide because I'm going to tell you right now, folks, you go read that book. Go get his book on Amazon and read it. It ain't expensive. No funny business here. It's $14.95. And as James told us, all the proceeds are going to a great cause, the IRONMAN Foundation, legit nonprofit organization he supports and is a big part of. And you put that book down, and that'll probably be the first thing you'll think to yourself, or watch and listen to this podcast. We hope you're thinking, be the person people look at and say, damn, this motherfucker never quits. And that's how I'm going to always think about you when I do, James, is you
Fantastic.
have been such an inspiration to me, even with this podcast, because some days I've said it before, I think to myself, oh, good God, what have I gotten myself into? What am I doing?
Yeah.
But you know what? I just keep going because I know we've helped some people, and we certainly hope we're helping some more. And I know anybody that reads that book or watches or listens to this podcast today will feel the same. So thank you again for being on our show today. We're so grateful.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Dean. I really appreciate your time. What a tremendous pleasure it is meeting you, talking with you. You're also an inspirational character, and I know you're doing a lot of good. And I think together this show can help some people, and that's the ultimate goal. That's the true joy in my life now, is giving back as much as I can. And I've never been more thrilled and happier with what I'm doing. So thanks for the opportunity to share my story. It means a lot to me.
Thanks so much, James. We're going to wrap it up, folks. But before we do, we got to check back in with Dean. Anything you want to add to the conversation before we wrap it up, Dean? What a great show, eh?
No, it's been a great listen. I just love hearing this one. And keep in mind, I guess this will also be on all the podcast platforms.
Oh, yeah.
Apple.
We're on Apple, Spotify,
yep.
SoundCloud, iHeart, Amazon, all the things. And so, yeah, as Dean always likes to say, please like, share, subscribe. And, of course, YouTube, is the most popular one of all of our platforms. I mean, it just blows my mind, all the views we get on there. So, once again, James, we're so grateful to have you join us today. And everyone, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Dean, thanks for holding it down behind the scenes. That'll do it. And until next time, everyone, we'll see you on the Dare Me podcast. So long.